Today, I am testing the same basketball across four different rolling ball games: Rollance Balls, Rolling Ball, Action Balls, and Going Balls. The design is basically the same idea in every game, but once the lighting, colors, tracks, camera, and visual effects change, the ball can look completely different. So let's compare all four versions and see which game makes this basketball look the best. Starting with Rollers Balls, this version immediately looks very bright and detailed. The orange surface stands out strongly, but what really catches my attention is the blue stripping. Against these wooden tracks, water and darker environmental colors, the basketball stays extremely easy to follow. The lighting also gives it a slightly polished appearance. Depending on the section of the track, you can always see the brightness and reflection changing across the surface as the ball rotates. That makes the ball feel more visually active instead of looking like one flat texture. There are also sections where environmental effects temporarily change how the ball appears, especially near the later part of the run. But even with those effects, the basic basketball design remains recognizable. For pure visibility, this is already a strong start. Now we move to rolling ball, and the same basketball has a noticeably different presentation. Here the design feels cleaner and more traditional. The orange is a little more natural, while the dark basketball lines are much more dominant than the blue details we saw in Rollins. Because the tracks are mostly light wooden surfaces surrounded by darker rocks and water, the ball still separates nicely from the background. What I like here is the simplicity. There are fewer visual details fighting for attention, so whenever the ball moves through a corner or approaches an obstacle, its shape and rotation remain very clear. Compared with Rollins, this one may not look quite as flashy, but it probably looks closer to what most people imagine when they think of a normal basketball. Action Balls changes the look again. This time the basketball appears brighter with a much lighter orange surface. The black lines are still clearly visible, but the overall color feels almost slightly washed by the bright environment. And that actually works well here because the levels use a lot of white surfaces, blue sections, and yellow and black track borders. The ball remains easy to identify even when the track becomes narrow or when the camera angle changes. I also noticed that rotation is particularly easy to see with this design. Those dark lines give you a clear reference point, so you can immediately tell how quickly the ball is turning. Visually, this version feels very clean and arcade-like. It may not have the richer lighting of Rollins, but for simple visibility during gameplay, Action Balls does a very good job. Finally, we have going balls, and this might be the biggest visual change of the four. The basketball here looks much darker, almost a reddish brown compared with the brighter orange versions we just saw. But because going balls uses these colorful green environments and golden yellow tracks, the darker shade creates very strong contrast. The texture also feels slightly heavier visually. Instead of looking bright and glossy, this basketball has a deeper color that gives it a more solid appearance. As the run continues through jumps, curves, moving obstacles, and narrow sections, the ball remains very easy to track. And because the background is so colorful, I actually think the darker basketball works better here than a very bright orange version would. It fits the going ball's art styling surprisingly well. So those are four versions of basically the same basketball.